Hello, and welcome to another episode of Paragon FX Group Q&A. I am Amy, and I am here with Rye and Tyler, and we're going to go over two of our earliest products that hit the market. We kind of realized that we've never done video over earlier items, and you guys probably have a lot of questions that we would love to answer, talking about the ups and downs of our earlier products. So, to get right into it, we are going to cover Creepshow TV's The Monkey Paw and Creepshow Original 82 Films The Traveling Ashtray. So, Rye, Tyler, we're going to start off with The Monkey Paw. I know we have talked about it in some other episodes, some other, social media things, but let's really get down to the nitty-gritty of The Monkey Paw. I know that we did get to work with K&B, and we want you guys to have a time to talk about that. What was your experience like getting to work with them?
Man, that was one of the few so far. Well, in the beginning, so taking it all the way back, the monkey paw and the ashtray, those are the first two items that we really started working on when Paragon was coming together. We had a couple satellite projects that were orbiting around our desks that we worked on, at our leisure. But yeah, the monkey paw and the ashtray took up a good bit of time. And the great thing about the monkey paw was that's one of those times when you don't always get complete studio cooperation, or the IP holder has the asset that you want to make and they can help you out with reference. But K&B was really quick to help us out. Greg was wonderful. Greg Nicotero, most people know him from The Walking Dead and an infinite number of other projects. But yeah, we got our paw master from Greg, and we'll show that off in a little bit. We got our paint master from Greg, and it really allowed us to jump right into the project and start to look for manufacturers. And therein came some challenges, and there's Tyler's cue.
Yeah, initially we sort of went through, I guess, how should we do this? Because there's always, there's sort of a predisposition. I think when people think of a foam latex prop, they think of something that's just going to disintegrate. And so we didn't want to go down that road. But we also didn't want to make it out of resin because we wanted to have kind of a feel. We also wanted to have a punched hair, which you can't really do on resin. You just sort of glue it on. And so in talking to several factories, and actually several factories ended up having to work on this because of this. One of the factories, let me get my sample out just so we kind of know what I'm talking about here. One of the factory heads had said they've been working with a new sort of semi-soft kind of a foam rubber that was much more stable than a typical latex prop. And so he sent us a sample. We really liked it. This one's several years old now. There's no drying, no anything. And so we decided to go forward with that. What we didn't know was that one factory is going to have to mold it. One factory was going to have to paint it. One factory is going to have to punch the hair. Then it was going to have to go back to another factory to be packed out just into all of our art boxes, which was a challenge too, because at a certain point in there, some of the factories, I think one of the factories closed because, as we said in a previous, we did this during COVID, and so there were still factory shutdowns happening, and so we'd get 80% of the way, and then the factory would have closed, and so they'd have to find a new factory, and then our quote would change, and it was a very, very difficult part of just getting this part done, not to mention the packaging. Because as Brown and I were discussing, we had grand plans for the packaging of this piece. And the packaging initially ended up actually being more complicated to get manufactured than the paw itself. If you can imagine it being more difficult than that, the box was harder.
Right. And when Tyler talks about the box, he's referring to when you see it in the episode. Of course, it's pulled out of its box, if you will, here. So it actually ends up being two props in one. The box is as ornate almost as the monkey paw. So while we were simultaneously messing with the paw, like Tyler was talking about, we were also shopping quotes on the box. And then the box, interestingly enough, we thought it'd be easy to find. It was a found item. Where'd they source that from? T. It was
Hobby Lobby.
That's right.
It's a Hobby Lobby box.
Right.
Yeah,
and then they
generally
just
speaking, there's a Hobby Lobby sticker right here that says, $14.99 or whatever in their box section.
So yeah, they painted the little symbols all over it and gave it a little bed of red velvet, gunked it up a little bit, and there you had a prop. So yeah, with it being one of our initial pieces, we wanted it to be everything the original was. We wanted it to come with the box, and we, of course, the Paul we felt we had scored when we had the master, and with the goal always being when you've got something.
The master's right here. Actually.
Oh, there you go.
Speaking of the master,
right?
Yeah, it's a little worse for wear from being molded, but yeah, that's directly from KMB, directly from the mold from the one seen on the show.
Yep. And when you've got that, and you've got that original in hand, the first thing that comes to mind is you've got to hand punch the hair. It's going to have a great paint job, because you don't want it looking like a 50s got it at the fair because they couldn't guess your weight kind of thing.
A beach boardwalk prize.
Right. It's easy for a rubber anything to look cheap. So to Tyler's point, when we had the opportunity to use a different material that we didn't feel would really degrade and just be a mess in 10 years, like you see with a lot of other prop replicas out there, then came the real challenge of, all right, punch the hair right, get the paint on it right, and then what are we going to do with this beast? So as we started to replicate this, originally we thought, if they've got them in Hobby Lobby, we'll be able to source it. And that was the original goal in all of its simplicity. And
we went so far we tried to just buy them from Hobby Lobby. They just wouldn't ship the amount that we needed to our factory.
You couldn't get hundreds of them. So then we're like, all right, well, we'll make them. So we start going through a bunch of factories in the quest of trying to make the things. And we ultimately ended up with one that got really close, but where the original had these little hearts. I believe the one we had sourced had, what was it, Tyler? It was diamonds, or
it had diamonds, and then they were going to laser cut each one into hearts, which was sort of the that was the death blow, because at the end of it, the box was costing substantially more than the actual prop.
Yeah,
and we were saying, like, the retail would have had to been between $200 and $300 to justify the additional cost. It was getting to the absurd point.
Right. And so we were shooting for where we ultimately landed at a $99 price point. But it was at a little bit of a sacrifice. You didn't want that one seemingly simple piece out of the gate to be $250, $300. And then we did, after many conversations, decided this in and of itself was a prop. And the goal always was to just tell people, the diehards, since we were making so few of the Pauls, where to find it. And this is really the first opportunity we've had. So if you guys want to go sniff around.
We did the DIY. It's on our old socials. Remember how to convert a Hobby Lobby box?
We did.
We did a step-by-step. Yeah.
Well, then I'll be redundant and say, if you missed it, go check out Hobby Lobby, and maybe we'll throw some pictures up of one of these if you want to try to recreate.
Yeah, maybe we can repost that somehow, because it's an older one. I think we did it 2 Halloweens ago.
I forgot completely about it.
We will try to post it in the bottom of this video when we post.
So if you've got a monkey paw, all they did on the original is, again, they put a little bed of red. I don't think you can see it that well here, but a little. It's a velvet, kind of a crushed red velvet, and then it was really gunked up as though it had what was left of
a dead monkey.
Yeah, a dead monkey in it. And I almost jumped the track just now, and I want so badly to Sean, go ahead and put that picture up of the great monkey massacre of 21, where the terrible poaching incident. No, not that one. The table. There you go. So when we've showed this off once or twice, but I love this photo. When we were really getting deep into this project, they're sending us proof of life, that everything's going on as planned. And we saw that photo and we're like, man, that looks like a customs shot,
that is a customs nightmare.
Yeah. Which, and we've spoken of this in a couple other videos where, we ultimately did learn a lot on this project. We had a little issue with customs. We'd stuck a monkey paw on the description on the outside of the box. And you really shouldn't do that. We should have abbreviated or something because yeah, it set up a few red flags. Apparently their customs can be sensitive to things like monkey paw written on the side of a box coming out of Asia.
They found on animal remains being transported.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that. So anyway, that was a fun one. But yeah, back to the box. Yeah, we'll stick some photos of it up if anybody wants to go all out and try to recreate that. The packaging that we split the difference on the packaging, right, Tyler? Do you have a box? I don't have one.
I don't have a box in grab shot, but we did. The box is more kind of like a metallic kind of metal, but we did still kind of Easter egg all the symbols. When you look at the actual prop box, here I'll hold mine up. Like there's all these kind of little symbols painted all over it in gold.
Yeah.
So we did sort of integrate the symbolism, those symbols into the art box, but the art box is more like an old like metal crate you would haul around from like a special effects shop or something like that. Would be full of stuff, like it's a more industrial look than the box.
Yeah, and we had originally planned we were going to kind of present some of the Creepshow props in a series, 1, 2, 3, and so forth as items came about in the show. And then we were just jumping around so much, and we had other licenses coming on board. And then there's what's recognizable, what's worth doing, what is it that only we love and the masses won't, because we tend to like everything. And then we've got are 300 people as nutty as we are and going to want, whatever. So we ultimately jumped right into the House of the Head that we'll talk about in another episode. We had some other ideas that we'll get into. But for the paw, yeah, it was a lot of fun and learned a few things on it, but still got a soft spot for it. And there is it's questionable whether this is the original Paint Master. And that's a sad thing. So when we were talking about this just before we started,
well, maybe explain what a Paint Master is. If someone's watching and doesn't actually understand the term, it's a Paint Master. That's what we would send to the factory that they would literally copy the paint from. And so since the original prop came from KMB and they were so just amicable with providing us, they actually sent us a studio painted, studio punched, essentially pulled off the screen version of that paw. And so that's the paw that we were able to send to the factory. And that's why our replica paws look so good compared to the prop paw, which is a lead into it's sort of like a urban legend amongst Paragon now.
Yeah. We don't know where it is. We don't know if this is the one. So I had a mess on my desk when we were beginning. It still looks bad in here. It looks like an archaeological dig. Anyway, I think I packed up the original, and it actually made it out in our run. So it's quite possible that you have the original monkey paw in your run, because I couldn't discern whether this was the original one or not. So
they look so similar.
Yeah,
we lost track of the real one versus the replicas.
Do you remember, Tyler, when I was panicked? I was like, oh my God, I opened, because what I did is I QC'd about a dozen of the paws, and they were just everywhere. And then I was carefully putting them back in their boxes so we could send them out. But yeah, I think again, there's no way to know, and I can't be certain. And there you have it. So I've clung to this one thinking that it may be just for sentimental value, but it's probably misplaced. So that's become a fun thing. So you may have the original. We'll never know.
Yeah, someone out there may have a KMB original prop in their monkey paw box.
Because
there's a good chance someone out there has it.
Yeah, and then I guess to wrap up I don't have it actually on this one. This is one of the originals. It doesn't have the certificate on the back. The idea was we wanted to throw in a little Easter egg from Whitlock Funeral Home there, and we were running out of room to put a certificate of authenticity, so it made its way to the back of the business card that's in the paw box. So there you are. You got anything else, T, on that? Or
Nope.
we
I think we're good. I think we can move over to ashtrays.
Yeah, let's talk about the 82 Creepshow ashtray. So we've affectionately referred to it as the traveling ashtray. I don't know where I got that. I think I picked that off in an old interview um, with Romero. That the legend is well, I guess we should start for all the people who don't know. The ashtray doesn't appear in just one episode. It's in every episode of the 82 Creep Show. So most people just recognize it from Father's Day as
Yeah.
a an instrument to bludgeon your abusive father with. And that's where most people know it from. But what everybody doesn't get, it's also in something to tide you over, where it's kind of a watch caddy, jewelry, and the watch goes into it. It's in the crate, just kind of in the background as you see dude scribbling his note. In the lonesome death of Jody Farrell, it's on the professor's desk, at the college. It's just kind of peeking between the meteorite, and then in they're creeping up on you. It's a soap dish, and then in the prelude there, I'll teach you to throw away my comic books. Where'd you say it was, Tyler?
There's a
It's
scene where the kid is stabbing the voodoo doll,
yeah, right,
and you can kind of see it. I guess over the voodoo doll shoulder is where it would be.
yeah,
And not to mention, like, I mean, in the TV series, there's a little miniature version in House of the Head. It's kind of worked its way across lore.
it's in every
Yeah,
episode. Yeah,
yeah, not just
Greg has
the show,
continued the
the tradition.
yeah, and that's kind of fun. So I go out of my way to spot it, look for it in every episode. So how it came to be was just love and affection and adoration of Creepshow 82, and I always wanted one, and I never could find one. I mean, every once in a while I'd see one pop up on eBay or something like that, but it was always I wanted a little bit more out of it. So when we laid into it to start producing it, we had all these options. The grand plan originally was, let's try to get this thing again around a $99 price point, and that's down a road where we were talking about. And we were ambitious, we were trying to land everything, new company trying to make it, and so we talked about doing it in resin. That was the natural default, because we can do a faux pewter finish on the cherub, and
Yeah, I actually have one of those early resin
oh, awesome. Is that
poles.
what's that one made of?
Resin. This is resin.
The whole thing is
Uh,
resin?
yeah, a resin pulled cherub and a hydro dipped resin ashtray. And then you can
Okay, I
see
remember
when
that.
holding it in this light, we did kind of experimented with like the glossy finish and the matte finish.
That's
So
right.
that's why it has kind of that weird finish on it. Yeah, and it looks. I mean, it looks nice. I mean, if you do a side by side, about the same size. I mean, they're definitely the same piece, just different materials. But there's just something when we kind of came down to it, there was something that was so much more inherently cooler about being able to make something out of actual marble and pewter. That I mean, little did we know the nightmare we were diving into with it. But
Yeah, because when we started messing with resin, we had two options. We could do a paint mask and shoot for what you see on screen and the veining and everything in the marble, but it just ended up looking so it just looked bad. If you ever see one that a replica that somebody's just hand painted, it's tough to recreate that organic nature, that the organic feel of the marble.
yeah, I
So
mean, we tried. We did texturing and we
that
tried to
was the
kind of go
best.
through and
That was the
there.
best one. That one looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best out of. I mean, a lot of failures came to get it this good, but we tried. There's sort of like we would name. I mean, it's a random marble pattern, but there's kind of hero stripes, and
Hallmarks,
we
yeah.
would name them. Like one up here, it looks like a crane, so it was like that one's like the crane, and the other one looks kind of like a sharp tooth. It's hard to see, but I kind of would call
Yeah,
out and trace like the really noticeable ones.
and you missed all that, Amy. That's where we were really obsessing with it. So we were calling out these
Yeah,
hallmarks in the resin, like Tyler's talking about. We're like, oh, it's got to have that. It's got to have that. We were really, nerding out on it pretty good. And so the resin felt like resin. It just somehow felt like someone's best hobby project out of their garage. And then
It's
that
light.
that was a better example when we actually did a dip and could keep some consistency on the graphic. But even when you study it up close, it looks good until you actually hold a marble one. So while we were fighting with the and this one's very similar. So this is a real marble version of the one Tyler was just holding up. Uh, it's ultimately wrong and it's bigger. It ended up being slightly sized up than the one that we put into the wild, but it was our first sample that we got back. And once we saw the real veining and could really feel the heft of the ashtray, it there was no going back. You know, there's such a high perception of value when you hold 4 pounds of marble and pewter in your hand that there's just it's tough to go back to resin or even we played with plastic. I mean, all kind of different ideas on it. And then, you know, knowing that if we did them in real marble, the veining, the design would be slightly different from piece to piece. We made peace with that. We thought everybody else would too. So,
Well, and when
yeah,
we go on the forums and things and like Facebook groups, it's super cool seeing like the Creepshow. I kind of troll like the Creepshow fanatics Facebook group, and that's their
right,
biggest like defense point of it because every time someone gets one, they'll post pictures. You know, everyone seems to just love it, and then so they'll post pictures, and then you know, as happens every time anyone posts anything, someone will write like, "Where'd you get that?" And you know, Paragon Effects Group, and then the next quote is always like, "Oh, I can't believe it's $249," or you know, whatever. And every time someone says that, like 3 or 4 or 5 people come to the defense. They're like, "No, like you don't get it. It's real pewter. It's real marble. It's totally worth it." And it's nice actually seeing that. Uh, it's nice seeing the fan base embrace that so much, and you know, to the point where they are coming to our defense by saying like, no, this is totally worth it. It's super cool, and that feels good. You know, you feel like you've made something that people actually get value out of.
yeah, well said. Yeah, we were glad everybody liked it as much as we did, and it was yeah, that's a labor of love, and we sometimes joke it's a good example of a prop we probably shouldn't have done. It was just it was nightmarish to ultimately land it. The edition size will never be met without getting too
Yeah,
much into it. There were problems with production, and we ended up cutting the run short. So there's very few of those actually out there. I'd probably say about half, maybe a little more than of the original run actually is will make it out into the market. But we like anything else that we do, we'll never repeat the run. I mean, what few there are, that's going to be it.
and I
Uh,
don't think anyone else will ever do this.
I don't think anybody
So
else would be dumb enough to try to do it because,
yeah,
again, we've talked about it elsewhere that, you know, it's one thing to get Italian marble into China, but then trying to get it back out. And I mean, there were some issues with that. So,
we talked about tariffs and things with the monkey paw.
oh, yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't understand there's import tariffs, and so there's an import tariff to import collectibles. There's a different tariff to import um, primate body parts, and then there's a whole different tariff to import home goods. And when you make a ashtray replica out of the same things real ashtrays are made of, suddenly you find yourself boosted up with a huge import bill because they think it's going into the home goods category. I mean, it's just it's never ending. The amount of things that can, the fact that it gets from our brain into anyone's hands is borderline miracle. Like
Yeah.
every single time.
Yeah, Amy's heard us say that. Well, when all of us get together, you know, again, Amy's in one state, Tyler's in one, I'm in another. When we ultimately get together and we've got everything spread out in front of us like at a show, Tyler and I have often stood back and we're like, it's a miracle any of this got done. I mean, there's just
Any of it.
so many hurdles, so much stuff gets in the
Uh,
way, and it's silly stuff too. But yeah, the ashtrays that contributed to their retail point. We actually where we settled at the 249 was that was a hard compromise. You know, there's not a lot of cash in those for us. With all that having been said, you know, yeah, we would have been better off just doing it in plastic or vinyl or you know any number of cheaper materials. But hey, look what it ended up becoming. So for anybody who loves Creepshow, there you go.
Well, and let's be honest, would you guys have felt as proud of that piece if you had resigned to do it in plastic?
Oh, no.
Absolutely. No, I'm totally kidding.
Tyler's like, yep.
Yeah,
No,
John,
that I mean, it's such a simple thing, and it's probably my favorite thing we've made. And of all the cool things we've made, to say the ashtray is my favorite is it says a lot, and it's just because it is just that cool. Like it is pulled out of the screen.
yeah, I love it too. Again, it was one of those that just there was a little bit of effort involved with it, but I think that's what makes it so sweet in the end. I've got a sentimental attachment to it for having been one of our first pieces, but also, yeah, it was hard fought. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Well, thank you guys for taking the time to share some of those stories with us because I didn't even know some of those stories and I'm cracking up laughing over here. So please tell me that you guys are going to be willing to do this for almost any product that we've put out on the market. I'm sure people would love to hear some of these background stories of these things.
We'll
Oh
try.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll go through them. This worked out pretty good. We were, as we were
every
saying
product
earlier,
has a story.
yeah, we'll see how we can make it painless because we tend to rattle. So yeah, if we can get through it this quick, yeah, we'll do them all. And like Tyler said, they all have a story. Some of them we have to censor a little bit, but
But they
they
all
all
have
have a
one.
story.
Well, I personally look forward to hearing more stories about each one of these items because sometimes I don't even get the full understanding of problems and things that we always go through. Thank you guys for that. I appreciate some of the censoring. Um,
We
so
put,
until
put the
next
hints.
time, we will pick this back up. Paragon Q&A with Amy, Rye, and Tyler signing off for the day.
Thanks, Amy. We'll see you guys.